It's Ray Peloso here, president of MBSi, doing a thought leadership podcast with Joel Bowen from the California Credit Union Collectors Council. So, Joel, why don't you give us a quick introduction and we'll jump right in.
So my name is Joel Bowen. I'm the president of California Credit Union Collectors Council. I know it's a mouthful. We actually have abbreviated our name over the years to CCUCC, so that it does not sound as a very long word. But my role is, as president of the organization, is to continue to direct to the organization in providing educational training, seminars, workshops, and conventions for our member base, which incorporates the entire state of California. And over the last several years, we've had neighboring states, including Arizona, Utah, Idaho, Washington State. All the credit unions who've seen the value in the training that we're providing to our members are now joining the organization, and mainly at the annual convention. The local chapter meetings are typically for local-based credit unions. So I'm the president of the organization, and also I oversee the collections here at Caltech Employees Federal Credit Union.
Great. Thank you for that. Before we jump into the content, a quick icebreaker. When you travel, window or aisle seat?
Window, always window. Always
Uber or
window.
Lyft?
Is that
Uber or Lyft?
Lyft?
All right. And coffee, tea, or neither?
Coffee.
All right. You warmed up?
I have to have it in the morning, unless, if not, my day is a downer.
Perfect. Okay, great. So let's talk a little bit about CCUCC. What are you working on right now? What are the priorities in 2026?
It's we are actually in the midst of preparing for our upcoming annual convention in October. As a matter of fact, I just came back from the property in Anaheim last weekend. Our committee met to tie up some loose ends for the conference this year, which is actually shaping up to be. It looks like we'll have a banner year this year. Attendance is actually up, so we're really pleased with that. To the point where we had sold out of all our exhibit tables, and we were able to have the hotel add a few more booths. So we still have a few more booths before we're sold out again. So right now we are working on another banner conference this year, and I'm looking forward to that. So my time have been spent this year planning with the committee for another successful annual convention.
Great. What are some of the spotlight topics and conversations that you're going to focus on at this year's conference?
We have two really big topics. Well, a number of big topics.
All right.
One of the things that we've seen in the industry nationwide, not just in California, is actually the fraud trends and the huge fraud that we as lenders are facing. Losses is in the billions, tens of billions, and continue to rise. So this year, I was fortunate to be able to book two FBI special agents from
Wow.
the Los Angeles FBI Financial Fraud Division to come and talk to us about fraud and to provide us as lenders with techniques that we can use to try to combat and reduce the losses. We also have two California DMV fraud investigators that will come to speak on title fraud and lien sale fraud and title washing fraud. So these are two big fraud issues that we're seeing affecting credit unions right now. In addition to that, we have our normal legal panel. We have a huge repossession panel that I think will be of interest to a lot of credit unions, as we're seeing. Most lenders are seeing an increase in defaults based on what's happening in the economy right now. So that's going to be, I think, one of the main topic of discussion at the conference this year.
Great. So thinking about the fraud session, because it sounds super interesting, FBI agents and investigators. Is it going to be sort of an hour and a half talk, or are there going to be maybe working groups where people can get into practice mode of like ways to identify fraud and work through it? Like, what are you thinking about the format of those discussions?
So it's going to be all presentation based.
Okay.
We're giving the two investigators a little bit more time because obviously this is an important topic,
Yeah.
so much so that we are seeing an increase in registration from credit unions sending their fraud teams, compliance teams, because of this one session. So I think it is clear in the industry that it's something that we need to address. And I think having these two investigators there will be a big plus for our membership at large. So I was fortunate to be able to be connected to these two FBI agents, and I am going to try to maintain a relationship with these two because I think this is going to be an ongoing problem for us in the industry, and we need to have some way to maybe have a direct connection with the
Yeah.
folks that basically deal with this on a day-to-day basis.
Great. Thinking a little bit about the conference and the planning, give us a sense of in your time how big or how much the conference has grown. Because you mentioned that you're maybe the biggest year. You might not have said that. I feel like I heard that biggest year ever this year. But talk to me a little bit about the growth that's gone on in the conference over the last number of years.
Well, last year was a really good year for us in Reno. And based on where we are now compared to where we were last year, we're ahead of registration. And that's one of the reasons why I'm predicting we're going to have an even bigger year this year. And I
Right.
think partly why I'm suggesting that there's such a huge increase and interest in the conference this year is because of the agenda. We have a very solid agenda this year.
Switching gears a little bit, thinking about sort of the full year, and you mentioned in your opening remarks that your focus is on education and training. Talk a little bit about how CCUCC supports those objectives sort of throughout the year.
The organization provides educational training for credit union employees and both collections and lending. We provide training on both sides, both collections and lending, by bringing expert speakers on topics that are relevant to what we're currently facing. So we have bi-monthly training sessions for our members throughout the entire state. So every single month, there is a local meeting either in Northern California or Southern California. And then at the end of the year, it's always in October, we have our annual convention, which basically incorporates the final training of the year on a bigger scale. On a bigger scale.
That's great. Who's the typical person that attends your sessions? Is it all levels of the organization? Is there a certain type of employee at the credit union?
So what we've seen, as a matter of fact, I was asked this about a year ago, and going back to look at our attendance um, record, we see middle managers as probably maybe 55 to 60% of the attendees are middle to upper managers, meaning managers, VPs. We have a number of CEOs that have been attending over the years. And a matter of fact, I think this year we have approximately, I think, 5 CEOs that are registered to attend this year. So that is a big plus for me. When I can see chief executive officers who can see the value in what we're doing, what we're presenting, how we are using the organization to, in some way, augment their training to help their employees to become better at what they do. It makes me feel that, we're doing the right thing.
That's great. Um, so I don't know if you've had a chance yet to look around the corner and think about 27 or 28, but what do you think is next up for, is there anything on the
Oh,
horizon for
wow. So
CCUCC?
we're planning for this year, obviously, but next year is going to be a banner year.
All right.
Next year, we are going to be celebrating our 40th annual convention, 40, which is actually a big number.
Wow.
So we are even planning now in advance for that. We have a good group of directors that are passionate about what we do. And my thing ever since I got in this industry is I have a passion for providing educational value to those that need it. You're never too old to learn. I always say that to folks when I meet folks. You're never too old to learn. So that's what the goal of this organization is to continue to provide our members with opportunity to grow.
That's great. So, sign me up for a birthday cake. I'll make sure I bring a 40 birthday cake next year. That's actually an awesome milestone, as you said, for a nonprofit educational organization. And you may have just answered the question, but I'll ask it anyway. Kind of tell me a little bit about what drives Joel to be such a long-term, leader and influencer for the CCUCC.
I've always had a passion for providing educational value. I mean, that's something I was brought up with as a child, and to be able to provide folks with the training that they need to actually make them or help them become a better individual for the companies that they work for has been the driving force behind what we do and what I do. So it's been almost 14 years. It's a lot of work. So most people don't see what goes on behind the scenes, but I have a very loving wife that understands my passion. So she knows that there are weekends I come home and I spend a lot of time planning and preparing because that's part of my DNA. I just have a really strong passion for education.
Okay, let's talk a little bit more about the credit union industry and any predictions or forecasts or key priorities you see for the next year or two. Give me the crystal ball of Joel. What do you think is going to go on in the next year or two in the credit union industry?
Well, right now, I think that one of the big thing is that's in the industry that we all have to learn how to adapt to change is AI, AI, AI. AI has become a big piece of operational efficiency. So it's there's a lot of credit unions now that are embracing AI and the technology that we can actually use to augment what we currently have to make our operations work even smoother. So I think that is going to be in the years to come.
Yep.
Um, the success each organization will have will depend on how much we embrace this change. It is here to stay. Now, I know there are some that are a little reluctant to jump into that field, but we are all using AI in some form. But more and more now, it's going to become more prominent, not just in collection side or the lending side, even let's say on the recovery side, right? Say to help credit unions, let's say, manage their workflow, especially those credit unions that let's say have large volumes in repossessions and remarketing. So AI, I think, is going to be the one piece that we are going to have to stay on top of and basically learn how to adapt to change because obviously things will change in the next year or two.
Great. Um, Switching gears to the other side of that question, like what do you think are some of the biggest challenges or obstacles or headwinds that you see maybe hitting the industry right now, if any?
I think one of the big issue right now, I think in the industry that we are going to have to deal with and contend with is it's coming. The economy right now is basically sputtering and people are
Mm,
hurting. So a lot of lenders are seeing an steady increase in defaults. And I can see in the next 6 months to a year, we are going to have a glut on the market with units to remarket. And unless you as an organization have a plan, now, I always say, let's not wait until it happens. I like to look in the future and plan so that when that happens, you have a plan already in place. So I think, Ray, what we're going to see in the next 6 months to a year is a continued increase in defaults. There are many credit unions that are hurting on both sides of the ball. So I think right now that's something we are going to have to plan for. And how do we address that? How do we address it now so that when we get to the peak, we can actually handle it and not be looking for solutions when we get to that point?
it's really, really interesting you say that because I don't think the tracking is that great, but most conventional wisdom is that last year may have been the largest year ever on repossessions, and you're sort of seem to be suggesting it might get worse before it gets better, which is crazy. So back to your lending and collections comments earlier, have you, to the extent you've seen or have a point of view, do you think the industry has already tightened up credit on the front end? Have they not? Like, it's sort of daunting to think that, there might be more repossessions in the future
Well,
rather
yeah,
than
I
less.
think, and to answer your question, yes, there's some lenders that have already begun to actually tighten up on their lending in preparations for what is to come, right?
Yeah,
So rather than keep the same spigot open, a lot of lenders now are a little bit more selective on the loans that they approve. Those loans that may have been marginal, back then, and that was approved, are now more likely, loan officers are more likely to say, well, Mr. Ray, I can't approve this loan with you alone, but if you can get your mother, your brother to actually jump on this deal, we can probably do this for you. So we're seeing a lot of the lenders actually pulling back now, in order to try to prevent future losses or, basically keep future losses to a minimum.
got it. Great. As we kind of head towards a wrap up, what would your advice be to someone that is coming into credit union collections these days? Like, what would you tell them?
It's as a young person, um, coming into the industry, one of the things that I learned is to stay informed, stay up to date, and always have the desire to learn. In our industry, there's always changes and regulations. In the industry, as a young person coming up into this industry, it is important to read and to provide yourself with the knowledge that you need. Sometimes it may not always come from within where you work. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so glad we have this organization, because we can supplement what, let's say, the credit unions are not doing. We can provide additional training at a very low cost, which is something I feel very passionate about, is to provide the educational value, but not at a cost where it's going to be, let's say, too expensive for a lender to send a couple of their attendees, for training. So I think stay up to date with training regulations, um, and have that, in the credit union world, we exist because of our members. So I always say to my employee, think of why you're here. We're here to provide our members with service, even though it's on the back end.
Well, that was an awesome summary. So we're going to leave it at that. It's always a pleasure chatting with you, Joel. So thanks for taking the time out. I know your time is valuable and you're working hard to get ready for your fall conference. So thank you very much for taking a few minutes out of your busy day and appreciate hearing all your thoughts. Have a good
My
one.
pleasure. My pleasure. I'm looking forward to seeing you soon.
Cool. Take care.